What's up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. In today's video, we're going to go over something that has not happened in Raid before. And we're going to go over why this is important and how this can actually help us in future events. Now, it's a bit speculative on my part, but I think there's sound reasoning in my speculation. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. All right, guys. So first things first, I want to bring your attention here to our latest Fusion calendar. The Fusion just ended about a day or two ago, but if you have a quick look at this Fusion calendar, you can notice a couple things I want to make sure you guys notice here. There is one Summon Rush and one Hero's Path. Now, the thing that has happened in this Fusion that has probably never happened before in any other previous Fusion is that this Fusion for Lysanthir could have been done completely with no shard spending at all. No summon at all. So it's actually kind of crazy that this Fusion could have been had completely without pulling a single champion. So let me explain. First, the Summon Rush. The Summon Rush in this calendar could have been skipped, and then you would have to prioritize all of your efforts into the Hero's Path at the end of the Fusion. Now, the Hero's Path gives you an extra 50 fragments. That gives you basically free reign to skip 2 events. This is possible because each one of the events are worth 25 fragments. Now in the Hero's Path, there's 100 fragments up for grabs. So in this scenario, if you skip the first Summon Rush, that means you wouldn't have to spend any shards, and then focus on the Hero's Path at the end, which was a Summon Rush component and a dungeon diving component. You could have just spent energy to get 75 fragments and then called it a day, and then this Fusion would have been yours. Now, I want to bring your attention to the Hero's Path event here. Now, it was pretty complicated, probably the most complicated Hero's Path there was in terms of how much you could actually save by just being a little bit more careful in your pathing. But basically, to get 75 fragments, it would have cost you about 40,000 points. Now, that breaks down into an energy conversion of about 22,000 energy, which means about 66 or 6,700 gems in terms of energy spend in the dungeons. Now, if you put it all together, spending 6,600 gems or 22,000 energy to basically complete the entire Fusion without spending any shards at all. If you broke that down into total shard spending, for simplicity's sake, I use 6,700 gems. 6,700 gems, if you were to buy all ancient shards from the gem shop with 6,700 gems, 900 gems a pop, that's only going to cost you 82 ancient shards. Now, if you wanted to spin it that way, 82 ancient shards for a Fusion to complete is actually super, super cheap because you're effectively getting, a ton of fragments. You're getting 75 and you get to skip one summon event. So basically getting 100 fragments for 81 ancient shards, which is an insane deal. So why is this relevant? Why am I talking about this? Why is this relevant? So first of all, we can all agree that Lysanthir here was basically one of the least hyped about Fusions of all time, pretty much. I mean, we have a whopping 8% of people saying yes, they are going for it after 4.5K votes. We have an overwhelming 77% of people saying no, and then 15% are undecided. So I would say of those undecided people, maybe half of them ended up going for it and maybe not. So I would say about 10% of people actually went for Lysanthir. So we can conclude that he is probably not very highly sought after, therefore participation is probably on an all-time low. Now, Plarium, we've always suspected that Plarium heavily monitors their analytics and basically adjusts events on the fly, basically catering to the players, right? In this case, in my opinion, it feels like this is very obvious proof that Plarium actually definitely takes into consideration these analytics on a very near-term outlook. I would say within a couple days. Within a couple days of the Fusion starting, they probably knew already how much participation people were probably, going for this champion. And then they had to adjust some of their later events on the fly because the first week of the events are basically set. So after the first few days of the Fusion, they probably had to adjust week 2's events to basically achieve what they want to achieve, right? So if they wanted us to spend some shards before, this anniversary community event happened, then they would have to, dial up some of the later events to make them more enticing, right? So in this case, Lysanthir, I would highly assume that they probably heavily adjusted the Hero's Path to make it more player friendly and also more enticing for people to actually go for. Overall, this Hero's Path is a ridiculously, cheap compared to other fusion events, other fusions, other Hero's Paths. It doesn't matter how you really slice it, right? The fact that they gave us bonus points or bonus value for the ancient shards also was extra juicy as well. There was a lot of good reason to go for this. Now, I'm not sure if this is actually a thing that just recently happened or is recently happening, but it's something that I definitely noticed, and it's very noticeable. As for the difficulty scaling of this fusion, Lysanthir had 2 summon rushes, no champion chase. This has happened in the past before. We can view this from the Great Hoof Luraka fusion. They did have 2 summon rushes here, and this fusion, I remember, was very unpopular as well. The cost of this was actually quite high as well, so there was no adjustment back in the day, almost 2 years ago, for the Great Hoof fusion here. So I think this maybe quicker turnaround on event decision making may be a result of Plarium being moved on from Aristocrat to MTG Media Group. Maybe Plarium has more agency in what they want to do in adjusting events on the fly. I would say, a couple day turnaround with analytics and adjusting events is pretty much on the fly. So how does this translate into something that we can use to our advantage? So personally, again, we would refer back to this fusion structure. And again, just like most fusions, we are basically given 2 weeks of events after the first day. So we already know the full fusion after the first day or so. We get the fusion plan and all that. So they can't really adjust the timing, but they can adjust the value. So I would say after the first couple days or the first week, you can reassess and basically fine-tune any kind of events in the back half of the fusion. So I think that's probably what Plarium would do. So as a player, we would probably need to be extra cautious in the first week. Assuming it's a fusion that maybe doesn't have too much fanfare, maybe it's showing that it's excessively difficult in the beginning, maybe the back half of events, they'll lighten it up. This means that if there's an option to maybe skip an event in the first week, it might be worthwhile because something could change in the second week. Of course, this is all going to completely depend on the structure of the fusion in general. In this case, we actually had a pretty unique structure, opening with the Summon Rush and then Hero's Path to end it all. So it maybe just worked out this one time. But it's something to consider, right? Because these are things that are noticeable. The noticeably cheap Hero's Path, and then the fact that this fusion could have been fully done without using any shards at all. I hope this continues. I hope this trend continues because this fusion, I think most fusions, we can agree, they should offer some kind of flexibility outside of just spending shards. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's a coincidence that the Hero's Path was excessively on the cheaper side, even allowing for the fusion to be done without spending any shards. But I find that that coincidence paired up with the fusion that is very unpopular, I find that coincidence not very likely, and I think it's a deliberate effort from Plarium to adjust events on the fly based on the popularity of the fusion, participation analytics of the fusion, which is really interesting to me. So that means they have the capability to do that, and we might see that in future events as well. So the real question is, how can we take advantage of this, right? Which is ultimately what I wanted to bring attention to. But I think basically we tread lightly in the first week, and then we look out for any opportunities for maybe some cost savings in the second week of fusions. But again, it's going to totally depend on the fusion, and we don't know. Maybe it goes the opposite way as well. If we get Armans or Fabian level fusions, maybe they jack up the price on later events to make it more difficult. Anyways, guys, just thought it would be interesting and thought you guys would like to know, so I bring it top of mind for you guys. Maybe we can brainstorm some ideas on how to use this to our advantage as well. That's gonna be it, folks. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Do you guys think I'm out to lunch on all this, or do you guys think I have some proper sound reasoning for my suggestions here? Let me know in the comments. Thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate your time as always, and I'll see you guys in the next video.